Monica, we know initially we thought for a moment this meeting might take place at Camp David. Instead, it is happening there at the White House. Iran is top of mind for so many right now. The president briefly discussing that. But talk about some of the highlights we've heard so far and some of the remaining questions we have for the president, who might take questions from the media before this meeting wraps up.
Certainly, Joe. Yes, just up until yesterday, the president had indicated he wanted to hold this meeting at Camp David. And then he said, according to him, due to the weather here in Washington, D.C., that wasn't possible. So the meeting was moved back to the White House. But maybe they would have a future meeting there. And certainly the president did talk about Iran a little bit, saying that he believes they still want to make a deal. But he also happened to say maybe we have to go back and finish it. Maybe we don't, in terms of potentially restarting major combat military operations. We know from Secretary of State Marco Rubio, for instance, that he believes a deal could be signed in the next couple of days. But we also know that could also fall apart because, according to him and according to the president, he only plans to either make a good deal or no deal. And we have been here time and time again, Joe, where we have really seen the president sort of articulate that a deal could be close. He has also argued repeatedly that the war itself is over, that the U.S. had won, only for that to really be betrayed by the actual reality of what we have seen take place and the continued conflict and the continued moves and escalation and preparation by the U.S. military. So we may get a few more details in the question and answer session, but that is sort of how the president is positioning this. And we know earlier today there had been a report from Iranian state media about a draft of a potential memorandum of understanding that could have included some of these details, but the White House is very publicly pushing back on that, saying that it is a complete, quote, fabrication, that there hasn't been anything that has been agreed to. So there is just still a lot that we don't know about what would actually be in this potential framework, Joe, and also whether there even is one or whether the U.S. and Iran are going to get closer to that. And remember that even if they do get to that kind of a deal, it would then, it seems, kick off, according to officials, a 60-day period in which more intensive negotiations would take place. And the real sticking points about the enriched uranium and a lot of the other details that haven't been nailed down so far, those would be discussed in that session. And only if there were to be agreement on that could there actually be an end to this conflict.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.